If you think your quail chicks just die for no reason, you're wrong. 4 out of 10 chicks die in their first month because of one thing almost every breeder does, without even realizing it. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly what that is and how to stop it with something simple you can do right now. Before we get into this, hit subscribe now because what I'm about to show you in the next few minutes could save you more chicks than anything else you've tried this year. Here's the first mistake: square brooders, the ones almost everyone uses. They create corners, and corners are where chicks pile up. In the first 48 hours, a stressed chick doesn't run to the middle of the room, it runs to a corner. And when 10 chicks panic at once, they crush each other. That's not an accident, that's math. Square corners plus scared chicks equals dead chicks. Picture this: 50 chicks in a standard square brooder. On any given night, 15 to 20 of them end up piled in the exact same corner. Not spread out, not random. The same corner every single time. That's not bad luck. That's the shape of the box telling them where to die. So the fix isn't more heat. It's not more medicine. It's the shape of the space itself. Round the corners. You don't need to buy anything expensive. A simple curved cardboard or plastic divider wedged into each corner is enough to break up the dead end. This keeps air moving evenly around every single chick instead of trapping heat and panic in one spot. And here's the part most people miss. Don't create one uniform temperature. Create two zones, a warmer zone and a slightly cooler zone, side by side. Let the chicks choose. A chick that's too warm will walk toward the cooler side on its own. A chick that's cold will walk back. You're not guessing their comfort anymore. They're telling you, with their feet. This one change, round corners, two heat zones, cuts early crushing deaths dramatically. It sounds too simple to matter. It matters more than almost anything else in week 1. But here's the problem. Even with a perfect environment, the water they're drinking might be killing them from the inside, and you'd never know it. Most breeders reach for commercial electrolyte powders, expensive, imported, and honestly, not doing what you think they're doing. Electrolytes hydrate. They don't build immunity. They don't fix a damaged gut. And in the first month, gut health is everything because a quail chick's immune system is basically living in its intestines. So instead, ferment your own herbal extract. An oregano and thyme mother tincture is enough. Chop the herbs, cover them with water, add a small amount of raw sugar to feed the fermentation, and let the mixture sit somewhere warm for about 5 to 7 days. You'll know it's ready when it smells sharp and slightly sour. Not rotten, not sweet. That sourness is the sign the good bacteria have taken over. Strain it and add just a small amount to the drinking water. What this does is simple but powerful. It builds a microbiome that actively resists harmful pathogens. It's not just hydration, it's defense built from the inside every time they drink. One more detail nobody talks about. Check the pH of the water itself. Water that's too alkaline becomes a breeding ground for bacteria before the chick even touches it. A cheap pH strip tells you in seconds if your water's helping them or quietly working against you. Cheaper than the commercial stuff. And it does more. But all of this, the environment, the gut health, it all gets wasted if you can't read one small signal in the feathers that's warning you before anything looks wrong. Here's something almost nobody checks. The feathers themselves are a language. A healthy chick's feathers lie smooth, with a slight natural shine, and they grow evenly across the wings and back at the same pace. A cold or stressed chick's feathers look dull, ruffled, and patchy, growing faster in some spots and barely at all in others. That unevenness is the earliest visible proof that something in the environment is wrong, days before the chick looks sick. So don't drop the temperature on a fixed schedule. Read the feathers instead. When you lower the heat, do it in small 5-degree increments, never more. A sudden drop doesn't just make them uncomfortable, it triggers metabolic stress that stalls growth for days. 5 degrees at a time, watch how they respond. Then move again and forget staring at the thermometer as your only clue. Watch how the chicks group together. Tight, anxious clustering in the center means they're still cold, no matter what the number says. Loose, scattered movement across the whole space means they're comfortable. The thermometer tells you the room's temperature. The chicks tell you the truth. But here's the thing. None of this precision matters if the chick can't actually digest what it's eating. Quail chicks grow faster than almost any other poultry species. Their digestive system has to keep up with that speed, or the feed just passes through without doing its job. That means feed particle size matters more than people think. Grind it fine enough to match their rapid growth curve. Too coarse, and you're feeding them protein they physically can't absorb in time. Now the second silent killer, ammonia. Wet litter builds ammonia fast, and ammonia doesn't just smell bad, it irritates the lungs before you even notice a problem. Set up a rotation system for dry litter, so ammonia never has the chance to build up to dangerous levels in the first place. Feed they can actually digest, air they can actually breathe. That's the whole equation. But there's another enemy hiding in plain sight, one that disguises itself as ordinary laziness in a chick. And that's the one most breeders miss completely. This is the section that changes everything, so pay close attention. Every chick rests after eating. That's normal. The danger is confusing that normal rest with something else. The earliest stage of coccidiosis. There are two separate warning signs here, and they show up at two completely different times. Don't mix them up. The first one happens in seconds. Here's how to tell the difference. Natural post-meal lethargy is short, and the chick still responds quickly to movement or sound around it. Early stage illness looks almost the same, but the response is a half-second slower. That's it. That's your first, earliest warning. Stop the video right now and actually look at your chicks. Watch how fast they react when you clap or move your hand near the brooder. A healthy chick snaps its head up instantly. A chick in the earliest stage of coccidiosis takes just a fraction longer. Then a few days after that, if the delay goes unnoticed, a second later warning shows up. Subtle physical signs around the vent area and in the droppings, still well before the obvious symptoms everyone else waits for. So remember it this way. The slow reaction is your day one alarm. The physical signs are your backup alarm a few days later in case you missed the first one. Catching the first one is what actually saves the flock. The moment you notice either sign, don't wait to see if it gets worse. Act immediately, isolate, treat, monitor. Every hour of hesitation here has a cost. The transition from brooder to grow-out pen is where a lot of breeders undo all their hard work in a single afternoon. Sudden changes in space, temperature, and social grouping create what's basically transfer shock. And chicks that survived a perfect first month can crash in the days right after the move. So the move itself needs the same gradual approach as everything else. No sudden shifts. Ease them into the new space the same way you ease down the heat. In small steps, not one big jump. Once they're settled, go back and audit your first 30 days data. Every clump, every temperature adjustment, every sign you caught early, all of it tells you exactly what to refine before your next hatch. Think about what you just walked through. The shape of the brooder, what's in the water, what the feathers are telling you, what's hiding in the litter, and that half-second delay that separates a healthy chick from a sick one. 6 small habits, and every one of them either saves a chick or loses one. And here's the real payoff. Every chick you don't lose to crushing, gut failure, or coccidiosis is money you didn't spend replacing stock. That saved money is what actually lets you invest in something bigger, genetic diversity for your farm, better breeding lines, real long-term growth instead of just replacing what died. The breeders who scale successfully aren't the ones with the biggest brooders. They're the ones who stop losing chicks in month 1. So here's my question for you. Out of everything I just walked through, which one are you going to fix first? The corners, the water, the feathers? Or is it the coccidiosis window you almost missed? Tell me which one you're starting with. I want to know what your first month looks like from here.